Hi, today I'm going to do the presentation to compare the financial situation for Microsoft Corporation and Intel Corporation. And this is today's content. And first, we go into the assets. This picture, which comes from the balance sheet from last quarter of the Microsoft, shows the Microsoft assets details. And Microsoft's total assets last quarter were $285.4 billion, which include $170.5 billion current assets and $114.9 billion non-current assets. And for Intel, its total assets for last quarter were $147.7 billion, sorry, and including $41.5 billion current assets and $106.2 billion non-current assets. And there's also details about long-term assets and intangible assets. And for liabilities, Microsoft total liabilities in 2019 were about $184.2 billion, and this includes 69.4 current liabilities and 114.8 non-current liabilities. And also it has $66.7 billion long-term debt, and all of them are non-convertible. For Intel's total liabilities in 2019 were about $59 billion, which include 22.31 billion current liabilities and 36.71 billion non-current liabilities. And these two pictures shows the trends of total liabilities and total current liabilities respectively from 2015 to 2019 Microsoft. We can see that there's a slightly different. And for equity, which include market capital and shares on offer, for Microsoft, its total shareholders equity was equal to the common equity, which is about $102.30 billion in 2019. And besides that, the market cap on 5th of May of 2020 for Microsoft Corporation is $1.36 trillion. And total shareholders equity for Intel was $77.5 billion in 2019, and the market cap on the same day it should be $253.96 billion. And this picture also comes from the balance sheet from 2019. Also shows the Microsoft's equity details. And we are going to the revenue and expenses. This picture shows the revenue and expenses details, which comes from the income statement for last quarter. And the total revenue for Microsoft last quarter was $35.021 billion, and total operating expenses in the same duration were $11.071 billion. And for Intel, the total revenue for last quarter was $19.828 billion, and its total operating expenses were $4.816 billion. Sorry. And for financial terms, with the current ratio for liquidity and for Microsoft Corporation, the current ratio of the formula is current assets divided by current liabilities. We can get 2.904. And for Intel, we also use this formula, and we can get the result is 1.737. This ratio can measure a company's liquidity and the power of changed assets to cash, and we can see that Microsoft is much more flexible. And for leverage, we use debt ratio. For Microsoft operation, the debt ratio, we use total liabilities and divided by total assets, and we get the ratio is 0.599. And for Intel, this ratio is 0.483. And we can get the result that most of the Intel's assets are financed through equity, and most of the Microsoft's assets are financed through debt. That's because the ratio for Microsoft is more than 0.5, and the ratio for Intel is less than 0.5. Next one is profitability, which have two kinds of profitability. One is return on sales, and one is on return on investment. For return on sales, we have gross profit margin. Using gross margin divided by revenue, and operating profit margin, we use operating income divided by revenue. And net profit margin with net income divided by revenue. And the next kind of profitability is return on investment. We have two ratios. One is return on equity, which we use net income divided by shareholders' equity, and return on assets with net income divided by total assets. And we get 5 data, and also get these 5 data from the Intel. Use the same way of the calculation, and we can get that all of these 5 data for Microsoft is larger than the Intel. So Microsoft has a better profitability. And this picture shows the ratios for last quarter. And the last one is market value. We use the price earning ratio to calculate the market value of these two corporations. We use share price divided by earnings per share, and we get the market value of Microsoft Corporation is 30.1, and the Intel is 13.64. So we can see that the market value of Microsoft is much more. This ratio also relates a company's share price to its earnings per share. And at last, actually, these 3 documents can measure the health statement, the health situation for these 2 countries, for these 2 corporations, and we can see that Microsoft is more healthy. And thank you. This is today's presentation, and this is today's reference list. All right, thank you.